everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you my January mid-month wrap-up. So I have been having an absolutely awesome reading month in January, and from the 1st through the 15th of January I read a total of 14 books, which is just amazing. I'm really proud of how many books I've managed to get read so far this month. I never go through like typical reading slumps that people talk about. I'm like basically always reading, but I definitely still go through kind of peaks and troughs where I'm only reading a little bit or I'm reading a lot, and I'm just in kind of one of those moods at the moment where I'm just reading a lot. And so I have spoken about books 3 through 8 already in my TBR takedown wrap-up, which I will link down below for you guys. So I won't be talking about those books here because I have already spoken about them, but I will be speaking about the other 6 books that I managed to read from the 1st through the 15th of January. The first book that I read in January was The Sun in Her Eyes by Paige Toon. This is a book that I was approved for on NetGalley, so thank you to NetGalley and the publishers for approving me to read this one. I was really excited to get approved to read this book because I have read some other books by Paige Toon that I really enjoyed, so knowing that I enjoyed her writing, I was excited to pick this one up. This book follows a woman who, I believe her name's Amber, and she is living in England, but she was raised in Australia, and she was involved in a car accident when she was about 3 years old in which her mother was killed. She survived the accident, and there was a woman who kind of stumbled upon the accident and who kind of heard her mother's last words, who is quite old now and is wanting to contact Amber now that she's older and talk to her about what her mother's kind of last words or a message that she had to give to her daughter were, something along those lines. And Amber's father suffers a stroke, and so she returns to Australia to see her father and help him after his stroke, and the story just kind of goes from there. Unfortunately, I really didn't enjoy this book as much as I have enjoyed some of Paige Toon's other books. I spent the whole beginning part of the book just wondering when we were going to get to the point where Amber receives this letter from this woman, because you knew that there was from I think the prologue, you knew that there was a letter coming from this woman who attended at the accident about her mother's last message to her daughter or whatever. And I spent most of the beginning of the book just being like, okay, when are we getting to this point? And that's a real pet peeve of mine. I've mentioned it before, that I don't like when something is mentioned as being a really prominent feature in the blurb and then isn't, and that was the case here. The letter really doesn't play a big part in the story at all, so if you are going to pick this up, just know that going in. I also really struggled with the main character Amber. I found her to be extremely selfish and quite childish, and she just made really stupid decisions, and I just didn't relate to her at all. Also, just a warning, this book deals quite heavily with cheating, so if that is something that bothers you, then definitely give this book a miss, because it's a real feature of the book and it's something I don't struggle with it the way some other people do, but I really didn't like it the way it was handled in this book either, so just know that going in. As I said, I did enjoy parts of this book, but overall it was just quite disappointing, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. The second book that I read was Salems Fury by Aaron Galvin. I actually just realised this is the second book in the trilogy, and I already spoke about the third book in the trilogy, which I read during TBR Takedown, so oops. But I really did enjoy this second book in the installment. I was a little bit disappointed first going in because I discovered that it doesn't follow the same main character as it did in the first story. She is in it, but it actually follows a different character. I'm not going to say which one because I think that would maybe be a bit of a spoiler for the first book, but it does follow a different main character. But I did end up really enjoying the main characters whose point of view this book was from. She's a really like kind of a great main character. She's really like fierce and badass and a bit wild, and it follows her. She has grown up, she is a white girl that has grown up with Indians, so it was just a really kind of interesting setting to read about and a character to read about, and I really enjoyed that. These books are very violent, so know that going in. I didn't enjoy this one quite as much as the first one, but I did still really enjoy it, and I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. The next book I'm going to talk about is Forbidden by Siri James and Ryan M. James. I wasn't sure going in if these two authors were like husband and wife or brother and sister maybe, but it actually turns out that it is a mother and son, so that's really cool. This book follows a girl who is going to a school, which I've mentioned is the setting I really like. She is going to this school, and I thought it was going to be like a boarding school, but it just kind of turns out to be a normal-ish high school. Anyway, she is going to starting a new year of school. She's been going to the school for several years, and there is a new boy who turns up this year, and she is also kind of discovering that she's just started having these kind of psychic visions that she's dealing with, and so that's just kind of what the story is about. I really didn't end up enjoying this one as much as I hoped I would. I wasn't sure how much I was going to enjoy it going in, and I didn't end up enjoying it that much. It's kind of one of those YA stories that I think is maybe a little bit too juvenile for me. It has a bit of like, it's a bit insta-lovey. I also just didn't really understand some of the decisions that the character made. Like, I guess it's a good thing, but the main character is just really open with her best friend about these psychic visions that she's having, and I just kind of thought, maybe I've never had a friend that I would have been close enough with to just tell, but like right from the get-go, she's just saying to her, oh, I had a like vision about this, and I was like, wouldn't you like just kind of keep it to yourself a little bit, at least at the start, until you discovered like maybe that you weren't crazy? And so then right from the get-go, her friends know everything, which was a bit refreshing, I guess, in that there was none of this whole, but I can't tell any of my friends about what's going on or anything in my life. I've got to keep it all a secret, which is quite often a trope in YA. So that was good, I guess, but I just found it a little bit disbelievable at the same time. The romance is very cheesy. The whole book just kind of feels like something that you've read before. It wasn't bad by any means. It just was just, yeah, I don't really know how to describe it. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. The next book that I picked up is A Darkness More Than Night by Michael Connolly. This is the second book in the Terry McCaleb series and the 7th book in the Harry Bosch series. I have been reading the Harry Bosch series and I really enjoy that series. This is like an adult crime series. Harry Bosch is a police detective, and each story basically follows him in trying to solve some kind of murder. I really enjoy that type of thing, and I really did enjoy this one. It kind of it's a bit different because it is following the two characters, like it's Terry McCaleb and Harry Bosch, so you're kind of getting the dual perspectives, which is a bit different to a lot of Michael Connolly's other books, and it's dealing with, in this one, that Harry Bosch is actually suspected of a murder, and so you're kind of seeing him from a bit of a different light to how we normally see him, seeing everything through his perspective and kind of that kind of thing. I did still really enjoy this, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. Next, I picked up Morning Glories Volume 3 by Nick Spencer and Joe Easma. This is obviously the 3rd volume. This one's called PE. I am enjoying this series. I'm still really confused, which is okay because I understand that you're supposed to be confused, but I'm just worried that kind of with time between volumes that I'm missing some things that maybe I should be getting. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm not supposed to be getting them. Maybe I'm supposed to be exactly where I am. I don't know though, because it's so confusing. I do still really enjoy it, and I do still really love the art. Again, let me just show you a page. You guys can get an idea of what the artwork is like. We have kind of this page here. It's really beautiful art. I do really enjoy the artwork. And I am really enjoying it. I can't wait to kind of continue on in the series and maybe start to figure out what the hell is happening. I don't know though. I kind of get the impression from a few other people that I've seen on BookTube who've read this that you don't know what is going on for like a really long time. So I don't know, but I gave this one 3.5 stars. And the final book that I read from the 1st through the 15th of January was Endgame by Tess Diamond. I have previously read the first 2 books in this trilogy that were provided to me by the author in exchange for an honest review, and this book was also given to me in exchange for an honest review, so thank you so much to the author for giving me the opportunity to review this trilogy. This is a trilogy that follows a disgraced FBI agent who is brought back in to help with the kidnapping of a senator's daughter. It's nothing like groundbreaking or anything like that, but it is really enjoyable. I have said before about this trilogy that it's kind of a trilogy that you could really see as a movie. Like, I can really vividly picture like what's happening in my mind as I read it, which is a really good thing. There were some really good twists in this, which was good. I actually wanted more romance from this one, because the romance in this is actually something that I've really enjoyed in this series, but the plot just didn't really allow for it in this, which I understand. But because it was the last one, I just maybe wanted a bit more, or at least I think this is the last one in what I believe is a trilogy. All of the threads were kind of tied together, except for one that didn't relate to this particular crime, but more to her backstory. But I presume that maybe the author is planning to write future series involving the same characters, and that you may get more from that later on down the track. But it was a little bit frustrating not to get that kind of last tied together. I did still really enjoy this, and I enjoyed the trilogy overall, and I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. So those were 6 of the books that I read from the 1st through the 15th of January. As I said, I read another 8 books during TBR Takedown, so you can check out that video, which, as I said, will be linked down below. If you've read any of these books, I would love to chat to you guys down below, or chat to you guys about what you guys have been reading. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more. But that's all I've got for this video today. Bye, guys.